What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be brewing the White House Honey Porter extract recipe, which if you guys don't know, basically since Obama came into office, he's been working on these homebrew recipes with the White House chefs, and they just released the honey porter and honey ale recipes a few months ago, but I didn't really have time to brew them then because I was brewing my pumpkin ale, my winter warmer, my brown ale, but now I'm getting the time to do it, so I'm really hoping this turns out well because I'm actually brewing it for my cousin who's off fighting the war in Afghanistan. So I thought it was appropriate because Obama's his commander-in-chief and he likes porters a lot. So after I bottle it, I'm going to let it condition until he comes home, which will be probably around 6 months from now. So hopefully it turns out really well. The ingredients for this recipe are 6.3 pounds of liquid malt extract, which we have right here, 3/4 pound of Munich malt, 1 pound crystal malt 20, 6 ounces black malt, and 3 ounces chocolate, which is all mixed in here. These are all specialty grains that I'm going to steep in the pot before we start the actual boil process. And then we need 1 pound White House honey, which unfortunately I'm not one of Obama's daughters, so I don't have White House honey. But I picked up this honey from a specialty shop and I tasted it. It's really good, so it should go well in the beer. And then we need 1 ounce bittering hops, which for that we're using Nugget, and a ½ ounce of aroma hops, which for that it calls for German Hallertau or Hallertau, however that goes. But they use dry yeast in the actual recipe, but I'm going to be using the Y Yeast American Ale Smack Pack. It's all swelled up and ready to go. So without further ado, let's get this started. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is add about 2.5 gallons of water to this pot. Alright, so there's about 2.5 gallons. I like to use purified bottled water just because my water here is pretty bad and it makes it a lot easier to measure everything out and stuff. So I'm going to turn the burner on, get this going. Then I'm going to get the grains in this huge tea bag. Best way I know how, just throwing it over top. Probably should have done this over. Grab a bowl real quick. Get these grains everywhere. There we go. Oh, I got a lot on there, but alright, here we go. So now we got all of our specialty grains in our huge tea bag. I'm going to drop this in here. I'm going to let this steep for around 20 minutes or until the water gets to 170 degrees, because once the water hits 170 degrees, if it goes over that, then the heat will start extracting tannins from the grains, which will leave bad taste in the beer, so we don't want that to happen. Alright, so there's our giant tea bag ready to steep. Make sure all the grains are soaked. Now while this is steeping, I'm going to get my sanitizer ready and my fermenter and measure out the hops and all that. So I'll see you guys back here in around 20 minutes and we'll continue the process. Alright, so our timer went off and we're sitting at about 162 degrees last I checked. Yep, 164 degrees now, so I think that's about good. This smells awesome. This is going to be so good. That chocolate malt's really coming through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my strainer. I'm going to set it on top of here so all the flavor can drip into the water so we don't lose all of it. I'm going to let that drain for a minute. I'm going to sip on my delicious backwoods bastard that I couldn't resist pouring my awesome new Duvel glass. So yeah. Once this comes up to a boil, we're going to add the liquid malt extract and the honey. And we're going to get this boil rolling, make this beer. Okay, so we just started boiling. Now we're going to add the 6.3 pounds of liquid malt extract and the honey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off of the burner, because when you're using malt extract, you run the risk of, since it's heavier than the water, it'll fall all to the bottom and then scorch on the bottom of the pan and leave bad flavors in your beer. So I'm going to take this off of here. I'm going to grab the liquid malt extract, which I've actually had sitting in a hot bath of water, so the stickiness comes out a little bit easier. I'm going to pour this in here. And stir at the same time. Alright, then what I like to do is get a nice whirlpool going and drop this in here and try not to burn myself. Mix some of this hot water up in here so we can get every last drop of liquid malt extract out of this. Alright, that's pretty good for that one. Let's grab the other bottle. Pour this bad boy in here. Alright, now let's get out of the whirlpool. Don't get burnt. Beautiful. Now for the honey. Set this up a little bit. I'm going to try to Instagram this as I do it. See how well that works. Alright. Let's go, delicious honey. Alright. Got the picture. Let's mix this honey in here. That's pretty good because this is actually a little bit over a pound of honey, so that'll be good. I'm going to move this right back to the burner. And we got to get this boil started again, so we can start the 60-minute boil, start adding our hops and stuff. So once it starts boiling again, we're going to add the hops, and we're going to get this thing going. See you guys then. Okay, so we now have wort. We've returned it to a boil, and it smells delicious. I'm sorry you guys can't smell that. But yeah, so we're going to start our 60-minute boil, our hot break. And at 45, we're going to add half an ounce of the nugget. And then at 30, we're going to add the other half. And then at flame out, we're going to add the aroma hops. So let's start my timer real quick. Alright, so I'll see you guys at 45 for the first hop addition. Catch you later! Okay, so as you can see, we're almost at the 45-minute mark, so we're going to add our first addition of bittering hops, which is the half ounce of nugget. So I got that measured out right here. Pour it in there. Give it a stir for a second. This wort is smelling just awesome right now. The honey, the chocolate malt, it's all coming out and just attacking my nasal airways or something. Anyway, my nasal passages. I'll see you guys at the 30 mark for numero 2 of the hop additions, which is the other ½ ounce of nugget. Alright, as you can see, we're about at the halfway mark, which means the second addition of nugget. Man, I love the smell of hops. Alright, so that'll do her for the bittering hops. Next addition is the aroma hops, and then it's time to cool this wort down and add the yeast to make some beer. So I'll see you guys then. It's the final countdown. 3, 2, 1. Alright, so now that's the final addition of hops, the Hallertau aroma hops. Let's add those in here into the boil. Stir them in a little bit. And then I'm going to give this thing an ice bath in my sink and cool it down as quickly as possible. So I will see you guys in a jiffy. Alright, now I'm going to try to cool this down as quickly as possible to about 100 degrees so we can add it to cold water in the primary fermenter and get it down to about 70 degrees and pitch the yeast and make some delicious beer. There's two things that can happen if we don't get this cold break going quickly enough. First, we can mess with the stability of the beer and get cold haze in the final product, which would suck. And then also contamination. Any airborne bacteria could get into this and it would just love this sugary concoction that we've made now that it's getting cold. So everything after this point is going to be sanitized. I'm going to try to get this cooled down as quickly as possible. I'm going to start by putting a sanitized lid on here and dropping it in the sink. Now when I first put it in the sink, I'm going to put it in an ice bath, but when I first put it in the sink, I like to spray cold water on it just to cool the outside surface on a little bit. Because if I throw the ice in right now, it's just going to melt the ice immediately and kind of defeat the purpose of putting the ice in there to try cooling it down. So after I do this for about 30 seconds to a minute and try to get this outside surface cooled down a little bit, I'm going to plug up my sink, add the ice in here and some more cold water, and then if you're really careful, you pull this lid back and let it vent, because if you're letting the steam out, it's going to cool down a lot quicker. So usually when I'm doing this ice bath, it takes me about 15 minutes to get it cooled down to about 100 degrees, and then once I add it to the cold water in the fermenter, then I'm usually on point to about the 70-degree mark that I want to pitch my yeast at. So they say you should get it cooled down in about 20 minutes, so that should be good. Alright, so now that we have those outside edges cooled down a little bit, I'll pull this out of here, close my drain. And then you can go ahead and swap out this cold water and ice as you see fit once the water's just getting warmer, all the ice is melted or what have you, and just get this cooled down to about 100 degrees as quickly as possible. Just make sure that when you're checking the temperature with your thermometer is sanitized, because anything that touches this wort right now after this point needs to be sanitized. It's very important not to contaminate this wort and have any airborne bacterias or wild yeast competing with the good beer yeast that we want to make awesome beer with. So we just want to be careful with that. Alright guys, our wort is almost down to 100 degrees. Now what I'm going to do is pour about 2.5 gallons of cold water that I just got out of my fridge into the fermenter. I'm going to do this as vigorously as possible so I can aerate the water and get the yeast a lot of energy to get a good strong fermentation going right off the get-go. So I'm actually going to pour this from pretty high and through my strainer to try and aerate the water as much as I can. One. Dos Equis. Oh, there we go. Alright, that's about 2.5. Now we'll grab our wonderful wort. Now after this gets poured in there, we're going to gauge where the 5-gallon mark is, and we might have to top it off a little bit with the leftover cold water. But we're going to try to pour this one pretty high also. And not splash as much as possible. Alright, there we go. The strainer is awesome. It keeps the sludge out, gives us a clear beer, and it also aerates everything in the process, so really like that. I have this sanitized spoon right here, just making sure all the delicious wort is in the fermenter. Alright, now we'll get rid of this strainer. And let's see where we're at. We're at about 4.5 gallons, so let's top it off with this cold water. Alright, got 5 gallons right there. Now what I'm going to do is add the lid, which is also sanitized. There we go. Put this airlock in here. I'm going to do the tough part, which is rocking this back and forth to aerate it for about 2 to 3 minutes. I like to put it on top of like a towel or something. It makes it easier to rock. So I'm going to do this for about 2 minutes so the wort is nice and aerated. And then the yeast will be ready to pitch. And it can go in there and just flourish and get a good, vigorous, strong, obnoxious fermentation started. And it will be great. So, I'll see you guys at pitch time. Alright, so we've got our wort nice and aerated. Get this lid off real quick. Grab our sanitized yeast pack. Let's check the temperature real quick. Beautiful. It's about 68 degrees on the dot, which is what I plan on fermenting at. So that's perfect to pitch our yeast into, so it's already acclimated to the temperature. So let's cut this with our sanitized scissors. Pitch this yeast in there. And now we're making beer, baby. Alright, so the yeast is in. Let's get our lid back on. Oh, we need this away from the handle. There we go. Alright, now the airlock, which we have sanitized over here also. Pop the airlock in there. Fill it up to the fill line with sanitizer. Where is the fill line? Oh, this one doesn't say fill line. I just bought this one today. That must be the fill line. Just bought that one today because I got some winter warmer in the secondary fermentation right now. Put the lid on. Now I'm going to go put this bad boy in my closet, let it ferment at about 68 degrees, which is perfect. It should finish primary fermentation hopefully pretty quickly. It's got some healthy yeast in there, nice and aerated. After it does that, I'm going to let it condition for about a month, and then I'm going to bottle it, and I'm going to let it condition in the bottles until my cousin gets home from Afghanistan, and then we're going to drink it together. It's going to be awesome. I hope you guys liked watching this. I hope that you make your own beer and it tastes awesome, and I hope this tastes awesome. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you later. I'm gonna go eat some hops.